9,
Motion.
instructions for the appeals board to be made Tuesday, December 13th, 1:30. Roll call.
Dasso,
Here.
Duncan,
Here.
Gibney, Guffey,
Here.
Kohler,
Here.
and Recky. Did I say that right? And Peoples.
Okay, so everyone's here today. We have minutes from February 16th. Motion to approve the minutes, or any objections to the minutes that we approved. A motion to approve. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. Any new communications?
No.
No?
Nope.
All right, we have, new business, west of Wiser Properties LLC for appeal of administrative interpretation of the 2015 International Building Code, International Fire Code, section 903.2.1.2, number 2, at 2108 East 11th Street.
Did you want me to go through the packet?
Yes.
Okay. So Fire Marshal gave him a letter November 17th, and then subsequently he received another one by certified mail November 25th stating that he removed the panels that's been installed around the patio area. That's the first attachment. The second attachment is the owner's response asking for an appeal, which he did submit for an appeal. So the next attachment is my email to Mr. Weiser in April 20th, 2021, last year, when the project was just about done. And he asked for screens to be placed around the patio for the summer because of all the south sun. And in the beginning, Jim Morris and I, we were both like, nope, no, it's supposed to be an open patio. That's the concept, because if you enclose it, you're over your occupant load of 158, and you'll have to sprinkle it. And he had also not gone through DRB back then, the design review board. But, he kept saying that, it would be just a simple screen that would come on, it would stop on top of the piers, and it would make his customers more comfortable. There would be opening below the piers, and it was very difficult for him to understand why we were saying no to his request. So the fire marshal consulted with the state fire marshal, which we do on occasion when, it's a new case that we haven't dealt with before, and heard back from the state fire marshal saying, well, the canopy is supposed to be operable during high winds and during snow events, and it's a non-combustible canopy. So it's okay to put screens down, which stop at the top of the piers. And that's exactly what I replied back to him April 20th, 2021, saying, as long as the sunshade stop at the top of the piers, leaving everything under open it, you should be okay, but please ensure that none of the exits are blocked. The structure cannot be enclosed on sides completely by means of vinyl or any other material. And so that was it. And then last month in November, we discovered that he's put plexiglass around the open areas. And so he did not agree with us when we said that that's not what we agreed to do. It was supposed to be a sunscreen that stopped at the top of the piers, not completely enclosed. So he does not believe that it's the patio, the open patio has been enclosed. And so the next option for him was to go to the Code Board of Appeals to appeal his case. I have also attached some pictures, if you scroll through, of what it looks like when we approved it, the patio, when it was opened last year in spring or late spring, and what it looks like today with the closed vinyl panels or plexiglass. The original permit that was submitted for an addition with outdoor seating is the next permit application. And then some other communication from our attorney and his attorney, and a cut sheet of the structure that was installed. That's the structure that was installed back in the day. So these were some permit drawings that were submitted to us. This is just a quick summary of the events.
Is anyone here for the public that would like to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Michael Malloy. I represent John Weiser, and I also have John's contractor with me today, John Gilkerson. John is out of town. He's actually out of the country right now this week. We didn't get notice of this meeting until 5 days ago that it was going to be held. John did ask me to read this statement into the record for you folks to listen, and then I'm going to have John's contractor also address you. Greetings all. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend this hearing as I am currently out of the country. I appreciate the board members' valuable time, and I appreciate your willingness to perform this valuable function. Interpreting the building codes is an important job, and when viewed from different perspectives, can lead to different conclusions. I am of the belief that anyone interpreting these codes should have firsthand knowledge of both sides of the equation. They should have been a business owner, understand what it's like to deal with changing economic environments, challenging employee issues, changing government regulations, increased input costs across the board from insurance to fuel. I don't know any of you, but it's my hope that you are perhaps business owners, construction professionals, or connected to the building industry in some way, and understand there is a need to have balance between government regulation and common sense. The fundamental issue in this case is whether a simple plexiglass winter panel transforms the existing outdoor area into an indoor space. The temporary panels were designed to be quickly installed and removed, 1 minute per panel, and only used in the winter months. Many establishments, not only restaurants, use similar methods for their outdoor area during the winter time. The panels are in no way intended to be permanent, do not present a public safety issue, or conflict with code. If I thought they would violate public safety, I would not have installed them. Before making your judgment on this appeal, I would like to request the board visit the site in order to see firsthand that these panels are not intended to create an outdoor space. No one would build an indoor space using these techniques. The panels are designed to partially block wind and weather elements in order to make use of the patio on days weather permits. It can be clearly seen that the outdoor patio space has not been transformed into an indoor space. I'm asking the board to use your years of expertise to make this interpretation. I'm a business owner trying to operate a business to the best of my ability. I try to create an atmosphere that the public might appreciate and enjoy. I'm requesting the board to make the fire code interpretation in this matter and correct the interpretation made by the fire marshal. Now, John wanted you to go out to view the premises because we think if you actually see the outdoor patio area, you'll understand what he did and how he did it. However, we understand the weather today is not conducive, so we made some blow-up pictures also of the patio area for the board to look at. But at the board's discretion, we would request that you either adjourn to go out and look at the patio area and come back and conduct the rest of the meeting, or if you don't believe you want to do that at this time, of course, like I said, we do have these pictures. Is there any questions from any board members of myself?
Are you heating this space?
There is space heaters on the ceiling.
Non-vented? Vented?
Pardon me?
I'm going to have John.
Vented, non-vented?
I'm going to have John Gilkerson come up and address that detail, as he's the
I lived there for a
contractor,
year, so I can answer.
and he's in a better position to speak directly to what you're asking. Thank
John?
you.
If I may speak, John, can you also confirm that there was in-floor heating installed during construction, correct? So there is heating in there.
That's heated with, well, there is in-floor heat for a snow melt system. The louvers on that open up. And so in a snow event, they open them so the snow comes through and it's melted. The concrete's at yesterday was about 76 degrees, nice day out. And then when we built that, we put in 483 phase, had a set of pole transformers, and there's 8 underneath that pergola, there's 8 electric radiant heaters. There's no gas, no exhaust, no nothing. It's my understanding that the code that we're going by is that a sprinkler system shall be installed for fire areas containing Group A occupancy if the following conditions exist. The fire area is 5,000 square feet. The fire area has an occupancy load of 100 or more. The fire area is located on a floor which doesn't pertain. So a couple things, the fire area is defined. The definition of fire area is the aggregate floor area enclosed and bound by firewalls, fire barriers, exterior walls, or horizontal assemblies. And so the only one that could be considered in that instance would be an exterior wall, which in the code is defined as a wall, bearing or non-bearing, that is used as an existing wall for a building. I would contend that a 2-inch aluminum tube with plexiglass on the inside of it can't be considered an exterior wall. There's gaps. If you want to look at these pictures, you can stick your arm between the panels and the brick and the stone posts. There is one bolt. There's little U brackets. The horizontal bars have little U brackets that are bolted to the poles. They sit on there, and one bottom bracket has one bolt in it to keep it from moving. And so one bolt they lift off. And that's our contention, is that they're a wind block. They're not an exterior wall as what's stated in the code. The entire structure, I believe that when the state fire marshal approved this, see if I can find that. here, I got it. There is a provision in the code to, for outdoor areas like that, that they can be excluded from the square footage if they're built from non-combustible materials, which is pretty much what you said in the fire marshal's opinion. So that's what we contend is that, well, that's the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association Code 13-8.15.7.2. Google's a wonderful thing. I'm not a code expert and don't play one on TV, but Google's my friend. And that portion of the code states sprinklers shall be permitted to be omitted where the exterior canopies, roofs, portico-shears, balconies, decks, and similar projections are constructed with non-combustible material. Obviously, the walls inside are brick. The pergola is all aluminum. The floor is concrete. The outside walls are brick. And I would also contend that the numbers used to configure capacity, they said that's 100. I believe he has 64 seats in there. And if you tried to put 100 in, there's a walkway all the way along if you look at the picture, the brick wall inside and all the way along the right side that go from the building to 2 exits. And if he put 100 people in there, I think the number was 99, then it would block egress exits. And so the capacity isn't probably what just plain square footage figures also. So, and if we did go out there today in this wind and rain and you walk by that wall, you'd probably get chilly and wet because they're not sealed. They're simply intended to block the wind so that the money that he's spent providing out this seating area can still be used. He looked into those screens, but would have been a maintenance nightmare to put a screen on there that with motors on them that rolled up on a track coming down the post. And you can imagine what that would be like in the winter, trying to roll those down and block a little wind. They wouldn't come down to the posts, and the snow would blow in, the wind would blow in. So that's why he went to this method. It looks good. It's way more attractive than a screen would be, and much less susceptible to vandalism. The plexiglass panels are simply screwed. He had a local shop build those panels custom to fit in there, powder coated them, and then took sheets of plexiglass and screwed them from the back. They're not in a frame in each one, it's just screwed to the back. So if there is damage, they can be replaced and keep the aesthetic value up. So that's kind of, anybody got any questions?
Question. By looking at that, where the piers are, is that where the plexiglass stops at?
It stops at the bottom of the, it's in one of these pictures here.
Stair steps down, is that correct?
Yeah, it's stair steps
To
down,
match
yes.
the masonry work.
Yes, it goes to the bottom of that tube.
Okay, so it's basically attached inside and just
It's
seals the whole
attached
thing.
inside. This one kind of shows it. You can see how these are screwed, there's plexiglass panels are screwed on there, and the plexiglass stops there.
How big is,
Short here.
how big is the panel? Does it fill the whole?
Yes, all the way top to bottom.
One
And
piece.
There's, see the gap here? Just a little gap on the sides here.
Yeah,
But there's bigger gaps. I have a picture on my phone.
but it does go from roof all the way down to
It's
the
about,
1, 2,
it's
3,
about
the
4
third
inches
step.
short of the top.
4 inches short of the top, and how short from the bottom?
I'd say 2 or 3 inches.
John, you want to use this one here?
Yeah.
And there's how they're attached. It's just a 4 by 8 sheets of plexiglass. Stuff in there. I guess it all comes down to your interpretation of an exterior wall. I know if on the front where the bar part is, where we have a brick wall and 5/8 plywood, 2 by 6 walls full of insulation, 5/8 sheet rock, thermal pane windows. If we put that panel over there, it probably wouldn't have passed inspection as an exterior wall. So I guess that's it, the interpretation of the code of what an exterior wall is.
I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Sure.
So by mechanically fastening that, you don't believe that creates a problem in the event of an emergency or fire for egress?
No,
You say
because
they're
there's.
easily removed, they can be removed in 1 minute, but in the event, if there is an event, who's gonna remove that in 1 minute?
Well, there's 2 exits. There's 2 egress points out of there, 2 gates out of there. Well, there's one.
I know where they're at, I've been there.
Yeah, yeah. And those from the inside, those wrought iron curved things, those are there all the time. So you would have to go over that anyway, which is about this high. It's about 5 foot.
Could still get over it, but yeah,
But there's,
without a mechanically fastened panel.
right, but
I mean, would you
I
agree
feel
with
there's
that?
adequate,
I mean, you agree with that, though? I mean, somebody could escape over that if there
Right.
was not a mechanically fastened panel.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
But I think that there's ample, the requirements for egress out of there had nothing to do with jumping over the wall. It was, we had two points of egress out of there. And there's also 2 doors back into the building, and the entire thing is non-combustible.
Is there egress lighting? Is there exit signage? Is there interior, exterior egress lighting, anything like that?
There's no exit signs there, no.
And there's no exterior egress lighting?
No. There is lighting in there, but nothing that says exit on it.
So there's nothing connected to an emergency circuit?
No.
Right, no backup fluorescent lights, anything like that? Sorry, that's probably good.
You know, I can't answer that question because when we built this, the bar part on the inside, I'm glad you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. The bar part inside that's like 16 foot wide, when we built that, it has a brick wall that divides the new addition from the old building. And we were required at that time, there's a door in the kind of the back part of it. There's a service area where they make salads. There's a glass washer back there and stuff. And there's a doorway to pass through to the kitchen kind of and behind the bar. And there's a 2-hour fire curtain that drops that's connected to the fire alarm system. In the front part of it in the bar, from one bar to the next, there's a 2-hour wooden fire door that is on a magnetic switch that's tripped by the fire alarm system that's on both sides. It's all connected together. So if there was ever an event, that would all be shut off from, the new part is shut off from the old part, along with a fire curtain that we have that comes down in the kitchen.
Okay, so just so I understand correctly, so they can't exit the main building through the patio and if there is an event?
Oh, they can, because you can open the door. The door,
I thought you said there was a magnetic strike on there that closes that.
the magnetic strike, it keeps the door open
Gotcha.
so that if the fire goes, it's just spring-loaded hinges.
Understood, yep.
It,
Gotcha.
it closes. But the door's still operable.
Right.
And there's actually 3 exits out of the original bar, 1 out of the kitchen, 2 out of the Mound Street side. So
Okay.
there's like 7 exits out of that building.
Okay, I was just worried about the patio
Yeah, right,
specifically, but
right.
thank you.
Yep.
And then I got one final question. You guys received a letter on April 20 of 21 saying do not enclose that. So what changed from that letter you received that says do not close that to you did enclose it? I mean, what made us?
The best answer
say,
I
"You
can
know what,
give
we
you-
can do that anyway."
The best answer I can give you, because I didn't do it, is that John took it upon himself. He is always trying to go above and beyond to make his place nice. And in a perfect world, we would be talking about this before the fact. In a perfect world.
That's why I'm asking now. I just want
Right.
to learn how we got to this point.
In a perfect world, that would have been the way to go. John, he doesn't, I've been in the business for 50 years. I've been doing this. I've been licensed with the city of Davenport as a Class A commercial contractor for 20. I looked it up today. And I was one of the lucky first ones to take the test. He doesn't think like we do. He thinks of what's going to be the best thing he can do to provide the best experience for his customer, to look the best. He's always gone above and beyond to make it right. Now, the steps he takes sometimes don't quite go in order. But that's the best explanation I can give you. And the fact that he felt that the curtains were, that's what, and the reason that's in there is because that's what he intended to do in the beginning. And I agree with you, he asked for that and got that approved. But it just wasn't feasible to do what he wanted to do. What he felt was the best thing to use his investment and provide a good experience, dining experience for his customers. The Christmas walk, there was quite a few people sitting out there watching the people go by, and he had the heaters on, and the wind wasn't blowing in, and they were comfortable and eating and drinking. So like I said, I think it all comes down to definition of an exterior wall. That's where I see it.
Krishna, has the state fire marshal had
Chance to review the screens.
So I just want to confirm that this is Davenport City Code. Like I said before, we consult with them because, you know, they're the state, but they usually don't have a say on how we enforce our codes. But we do consult with them on occasion. I consult with others, building officials. He consults with the state. And so that's how this happened. But we've never asked about this because, all this happened so suddenly.
Yeah.
We never, if we would have come and been like, hey, Trishna, this is what I want to do, I'm sure it would have been we'd be in a different place right now. But
Do you think they would provide an interpretation like they did for the sunscreens?
Jim Morse, Fire Marshal, for those of you who don't know me. So when I called them, I did not speak to the State Fire Marshal. I spoke to the plans examiners, which that's what they do day in and day out. And basically, it was reaching out to somebody with equal knowledge that had experience with this, and that's what they had given us. But at the end of the day, we still have the authority having jurisdiction as far as our code interpretation of that. And I just wanted to clarify a few things just so there isn't any confusion. So he's quoting NFPA 13, which governs sprinkler systems for the building community. And in there, it's talking about non-combustible. In my training and experience, plexiglass is not considered non-combustible. The other issue that I would like to bring up also is he talked about occupant load in regards to tables. We don't figure occupant load according to how many tables and chairs you have. There actually is more the square footage of the usable space. And that usable space partially goes into that brick structure from where that 2-hour fire separation wall is that he's talking about. And in regards to, there are exit signs inside that, beyond that fire door, that has a magnetic hold open that lead out to the patio there. That space causes them to have, in this criteria for the code section with the A2, with the sprinkler, you have to have one of the following, not all three, and that one is that pushes that occupant load above the 100, which will require a sprinkler system.
So we had this talk with John back in the day when we were doing plan review and how he decided to do what he did with the 2-hour wall. If you look at the screen, you've got the floor plan for the addition, the dark walls. If you scroll this way, the dark walls are the new addition. The hatched, pochade area is existing. So since he was going to be over the occupant load with the way his building was, he decided to build a 2-hour wall, which is, so all the white portion is the new addition. So there is a 2-hour wall, if you can imagine, between, the top north part of the plan north and plan east, is a 2-hour wall. So in the event of a fire, the wall next to something that says service is a 2-hour, there's a coiling door that shuts down. And then there's a door at the bottom, which is, I think, it's probably a 90-minute door, right, John?
Pardon me?
That door to the south
Yes.
is probably a 90-minute door because of the 2-hour wall. And so when he did the occupant load calculation, it's the calculation of that entire addition, not just the patio. And if you look at the building code data submitted by his architect, if you scroll to right there, it's 115 occupants. And that's why we're like, John, make sure that you don't enclose the patio. That was a whole premise about doing this addition, is an open patio. When plans were submitted in the beginning, I think it was 2020, we had a talk, and he did talk of a pergola, but nothing was submitted back then because nothing was decided of what was going to be constructed in the open seating area. Around March last year, we saw that a structure was being constructed, so we had to go down, put stop work saying, hey, what are you doing? We never reviewed these plans. He had to go back to DRB. We had to reissue the permits for the pergola or the canopy, the non-combustible canopy, which has been engineered to open on high winds and during snow events. And so we were like, okay, that's fine. Your canopy is operable, but again, please make sure you don't enclose it because you're not sprinklered, because he didn't want to sprinkle the addition. We were like, okay, that's fine, but just make sure you don't enclose it because that whole exiting plan is, you can see the addition, they go out that open patio, like people are going to be exiting out the patio space. So it's not just non-combustible. We're talking about smoke. We're talking about visibility. So, I mean, and that's why I was like, John, we want to work with you. And that's why I emailed him saying, please don't enclose please screen, we want your customers to be comfortable in summer with the sun. And that was the discussion. There was no discussion about windbreak. And I wish he would have come to me or Jim, and we would have sat down like we did during plan review and had a discussion about how to go about to make sure that, he met code and we didn't step on each other's toes, I would say. But it didn't happen. And he's not agreeing with us when we say that it's enclosed. That's our interpretation, that you have now enclosed it because you've clearly not done what we told you in the email or what we said during plan review or what the permit has been issued for is an outdoor patio.
How thick is that plexiglass?
Quarter-inch.
Is there a reason why it can't be sprinkled?
Pardon me?
Is there a reason why it can't be sprinkled? This whole thing goes away?
The number one cost.
Looks to me like cost is not a factor for John if he wants to do it right.
Well, and I've done all of John's construction down there for 13 years. I built his house, I built a building for him up on 12th Street. I went down there when he bought 11th Street to brick in a window, and I've been there for a long time. Did the addition. And I've redone the front of a couple other buildings for him and a couple other people down there. Now, we sprinkled the building up on 12th Street that we did. It has commercial on the first floor and two real nice apartments on the second floor, and that is sprinkled. And we had to dig out the street, put in a 4-inch main, bring the 4-inch main in the building. It's a constant maintenance issue with the sprinkler system down there because there's about 120 pounds of water pressure down there. It's constantly blowing out the backflow preventer. And in this case, to sprinkle it would, to tear up 11th Street, I don't know if you've ever done any work down on 11th Street, but the last thing we did down there, we had railroad tracks, bricks, railroad ties. The water mains down there are bad. There's also a tunnel that runs his front sidewalk. Have you ever been in that tunnel? There's a tunnel under that sidewalk, runs all the way from up down Christie, down there across. We haven't quite figured out if it was a underground railroad, if it was they were running bootleg liquor down that tunnel, or if it was a drainage. But there's 2-foot walls down there, so it's a major expense just to get the water into the
Looked
building.
into a dry system?
I haven't, no.
I don't know, maybe Mr. Morse could comment on that. Is that an option?
For a dry system,
Yeah.
you still have to have the supply, but there's businesses all over this community that have 120 pounds of pressure on their sprinkler lines, and they're doing just fine.
Questions?
Any other
I
questions?
just have one, recommendations on background. The original project was a building addition with an open patio covered by a pergola canopy. Notified the property owner April 20, 2021, that sunscreen could be installed, open sides of the canopy as long as they stopped on top of the pier caps. Hence leaving everything under it open. And right now, you're taking plexiglass all the way down.
That's
on
correct.
top of the piers. Piers are way up here and not all of this, right? We're on the same page?
Are there any other questions? Again, I would just say that in the code it says exterior wall, and I would just, my point is, I don't think that's an exterior wall, that panel with a piece of plexiglass in it. So that's what I see as the decision to make. Any other questions?
Do we have anyone else in the group can give a second opinion on what he just said? Obviously, he has a bias to his opinion, so do we have a neutral position on that? But if it is or it isn't.
I can speak on a little bit. With fire areas, you know, it's, falls into like health, safety, and life, welfare of the project and or property, and if you can egress properly. Now, the exterior patio area is an egress component for the interior spaces of the area. So that exterior patio needs to comply with the fire area that's required for the inside as well. The 2-hour wall that's in the position that it isn't meant to exit from this space into that space. It's meant to divide the space. So with fire area interpretation and, you know, with the code and what a lot of restaurants have done this, it's, you create spaces, but the spaces have to exit within each other. So you have to have, now, because the patio and the indoor space for this addition exceeds the amount of occupants, they interpreted the patio to be exterior space. You know, I think it falls into the realm of, is that exterior space actually exterior space? And would you, exiting the indoor space of the bar or the kitchen, or would you feel safe knowing that that's your last means of egress out of the total containment area? And so it's, interpretation is, you know, goes a long way, but that's kind of how I interpret it, is that you're limiting the use of exiting or egress.
You got 2 doors to go through instead of 1.
Yep, and anyone running for, or exiting in a case of fire, or would they feel like they're out of the building and have exited the area, being on the patio space?
And do you think then, saying that if there was an actual exit sign above those gates, that would rectify that issue? Because nobody's going to jump over the wall to exit. One
We've
wouldn't
had
think.
cases where, like, looks like the canopy pretty much connects to the building too. And so
Yes.
we've had other cases where if the patio structure doesn't connect to the building, you obviously see defined separation. You know, and that's not the case here either. Now, how do the louvers actually work? Are they just,
There's a switch inside the door. You can open them. They go all the way over. You can
but
open
they're
them
not,
straight up.
they're not automatic in any
And
way?
then it's got a wind sensor on it and a rain sensor. So if they're open and it starts raining, they're closed. If the wind, I don't remember off the top of my head, I want to say it's 40 miles an hour, then the louver's open to prevent uplift.
It's not the plexiglass, what you're using to keep the wind out, the same thing that would keep the smoke in that area.
State that again, please.
You put up the plexiglass, so the plexiglass was put up to prevent wind on the clientele. Does it then not also prevent any smoke that's accumulated in that area from leaving?
Well, I would say there is enough open area around it and enough open area. Those louvers, they're sections. It's not one louver all the way across. There's gaps at the edges of those. Those louvers stop short of the beam about that much. there's a gutter system up there. So the water goes to the gutter system, it goes down, all the water goes down underground to the storm drain. So I would say, number one, any smoke in there would go out because of the gap between the louvers and the beams and the mechanisms which tie them together. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different rows, and they, there's a beam down the center, so there's actually 8 sections of louvers, and they operate on 4 different motors. And so there's gaps around there to let smoke out, number one. Number two, again, it's all non-combustible in there. I don't know what would ever catch fire. I mean, that's,
I think for me, it's the containment of the smoke, which affects everybody's ability to get to an exit or to get out.
I would just say, where's the smoke coming from? But I don't know.
Jim?
So just to kind of comment here. So I've been on the department for almost 27 years. I've seen a lot of fires, and in my training and experience with this, a small gap in that is not going to release the smoke. Some of the things that you have to take into account are human factors, and human factors are what fire codes are built on because of the fact that things go bad quick. And the other thing that hasn't been really explained, if you look on there, you have that 2-hour firewall, you have the bar area there. Now, if you see those doors there, you have 2 exit doors, one that's on the south side, one that's on the north side, and then in between there, you have bifolding glass openings. We'll call them doors. And so you open those up and you have that whole intervening space. So now you have, again, you go above that 100 occupant load, you have people trying to get out, and you're gonna have that whole fire area there that you have to contend with. And I can't, as a fire marshal, I can't in good conscience bank on the fact that those louvers are gonna open and the smoke is gonna escape those gaps. My other concern is the fact that we sent emails to Mr. Weiser on the sunshade. He asked us about that for the blinds, but yet he didn't feel it was necessary to ask us about the plexiglass, probably because he knew our answer. Second of all, my issue is the fact that he was supposed to go to the top of the pier cap with them, with just the blinds alone, and then felt that it was okay with an even sturdier material to go all the way down to the end of the masonry. And again, I go back to my prior statement before, plexiglass is not non-combustible.
Okay, I think we have option to, hear a motion today or leave it up for more discussion.
What is the critical path of life safety issue at hand? Who can tell us, maybe the fire marshal, what is the critical, how critical is this to deal with this today?
As far as the removing of the plexiglass,
Well, in my mind, this is all about keeping people safe.
it is.
There's a lot of reasons why John Weiser did things out of line as far as I'm concerned, but at the end of the day, it's all about keeping people safe.
It is.
I'm sitting here because of that fact.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying to you, what is that critical path? Is it, in your opinion, is this something that has to be dealt with today, that plexiglass needs to come down, or is this something that could be tabled and get more thoughts or more opinion?
At this point, I had given him 10 days to take this down, and then he went through the appeal. I think that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. If you want to take time to think about it, I'm not opposed to that as the fire marshal, but to get more input, research whatever you want to do. But the fact of the matter is, I would like to see that down sooner than later.
So that part B to that same question, if we table this and/or make an exception to this, and somebody dies in there as a result of not being able to get out, who's responsible for that, for this decision at the end of the day?
I would offer that if you plan on tabling the decision, I would ask that if these can be taken off in less than a minute, that was what was quoted by the contractor, then why couldn't they remove them until a decision is rendered? And then we alleviate the life safety issue and we allow you guys more time if that's what the board would like.
Okay, so I think you answered half of the question. If somebody dies as a result of us making an exception for this, how does that work from a legal standpoint? I know we got an attorney here, but do we have anybody else that would know? Because we sit on it, because we made an exception, we're ultimately all responsible then. If somebody dies and we didn't follow the code. I know how electrical codes work. At the end of the day, when people die, it hits the fan. This is not an electrical issue, but it's same church, different pew, right?
Absolutely. I would probably have to defer to our city legal.
Ryan Heyer, Assistant City Attorney. I think you've just answered your question. I mean, by saying if we make an exception to the code, it's before you to determine whether or not this complies with the code or not.
I think I'm pretty clear that the result of what we have to deal with here does not comply with the code. I'm just not sure if, in fact, the structure that's been put up is, in fact, not compliant. Okay. I don't think it is, but I'm not sure it is. I couldn't say 100% that what they've done is not compliant. I think it's not compliant based on the fact he knew better and he did it anyways. But I'm not sure that if there's a fire in there, people are gonna die because of that plexiglass. Okay. I've been down there, I've seen it with my own eyes, I was down there the other day, and I know exactly what I'm talking about as far as what you did. Now, I will say, everything that's been down there has been done very well and it's first class. That's not the issue.
Thank you.
Okay. But the issue for me is that at the end of the day, if somebody dies in there, I gotta be able to sleep at night. Okay. I don't think it's up to me to change the codes.
This code was the fire area occupancy for assembly use was changed, I don't know, in 2008 or 2004. In those times, you could have up to 300 people in assembly use inside. So you see that a lot in restaurants still because they're grandfathered in. The code was changed because of fires that happened in nightclubs, dance clubs, places where, you know, over occupancy, New Year's Eve parties, where something does happen, an event happens, and then you have too many people in the space. And there isn't a fire suppression system that can put out the fire. There aren't other ways of exiting. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the code that we have today with the fire area that is loud. In my opinion.
I would agree that John has more options on the table. And for us to interpret the code differently than what fire marshal or all the experienced people in high places are telling John, he's still got other options. I mean, this ain't the end all, kill all result, I don't think. So keep it in mind, the board, you know, he's got other options. I mean, it's not like we're killing a dream or something. He chose to go down this road, and if he wants to stick with that and stick with this nice looking building, it does look really nice. then he's got to do something else. You know, there's other options out there. It's not like, you know, this is going to kill the whole deal.
My opinion, especially with the time of year, would be to honor what the fire marshal has asked. I think the panels should be removed. We don't have to make a decision as a board here today, but that life safety issue is huge. We have 2 weeks of the most crowded times in a bar, restaurant. My opinion would be that the panels would come down.
Okay, do we want to make a motion today? Or have the panels removed and hold the vote for next meeting?
I think we need to know when that next meeting is and
That's
exactly what
fair.
that motion entails and what is the next step, all in one.
Well, I guess I would, what's the enforcement authority of the board to say, remove the panels until our next meeting if Mr. Weiser says no? I don't know that I don't know that the board has the authority to do anything about that.
Trishna, can you clarify that point?
I think what the attorney is trying to say is, like, even if the board tells, if we decide to meet a week later, but we tell Mr. Weiser to remove the panels until then, that's probably not what's going to happen. So we can either table it, or what do you?
I mean, I'm just saying, if you decide to go that route, you need to understand that he might just leave the panels in there and there's nothing anybody can do about it until the next meeting.
Is our job more than just denying the appeal?
Well, your job is to make a decision based on the appeal. The appeal is he's either got to remove the panels or sprinkle the area to meet fire code.
Which that decision's already been made by a different panel.
Not sure I follow that statement.
Well, aren't we here because he's already appealing a decision that's been made by someone of authority?
Well, these two.
Okay.
And this
So
is
if we
his
deny the
this is his
appeal, doesn't it
mechanism
go back to
appeal.
their decision?
I'm sorry?
If we deny the appeal today, does it not go back to their decision?
Correct.
Remind us what your decision was and what that would mean.
If you deny it today, my decision, you're agreeing with my code interpretation, mine and Trishna as the chief building official, and he would either have to sprinkle the building or remove the panels.
And if he does not do that, then who enforces it?
It would be the city that would enforce that.
And not this committee?
No.
No, myself as the fire marshal and Trishna as the chief building official would enforce that through the channels, through the city.
So then our responsibility today is just to agree to or deny this appeal.
Correct.
Or you can table it, like you said,
Correct.
further thought and discussion.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I would make a motion to deny the appeal.
Second.
So do we take a vote?
I'll read the roll call. Duncan,
Yes.
Gibney? Guffey? I'm sorry, yeah, Guffey?
Yes, meaning decline or deny?
So yes vote is to deny the appeal.
I just wanted to clarify that. Yes.
Kohler,
Yes.
Averaki,
Yes.
Peoples,
Yes.
Dessa.
Yes. Okay.
So the appeal is denied.
Okay, is there any old business to review today?
Nope.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.